Hey there, my name's Curtis Lucas and you're watching Empire Building. In this episode, I need to get into two topics. The first being the big news today that Twitter would now introduce a new tipping feature that they've been experimenting with since May and now include crypto and Bitcoin. This would be utilizing the Strike app developed by Jack Mallers. And also, we need to address a little bit of an issue that I've discovered with Marapool, which seems to indicate a decrease in Bitcoin's mined during the month of September over August. This is going to impact the numbers that they're going to publish at the start of October for September's performance results. Because all this is published on the open blockchain, we don't actually have to wait for them to publish those results to see for ourselves. So we're going to dig into those numbers and try to figure out exactly what's going on. Now, it was pretty great to hear that Twitter would now be allowing Bitcoin to be used as a method of tipping content creators, or anybody for that matter. Now, this idea of tipping on Twitter is something that they've been experimenting with and rolling out over the last few months, but adding Bitcoin to that list was obviously inevitable. So it certainly doesn't come as a great big surprise. And when I heard about this, I thought that would be great. Why don't I actually get set up and start to understand how this works? I very quickly found out that me being in Canada, I don't actually have access to the Strike app. I can't even download it from the App Store. But that doesn't mean I can't receive tips on Twitter. I'd have to go in and look into see how I would set that up. But as far as I understand, if I was actually to receive tips in Bitcoin, I would need the Strike app. At least that's how I understand it thus far. To be honest, this is something that's a new development and I don't fully understand it myself quite yet. And to be honest, there's also some aspects of this that aren't quite clear. On Strike's website, they go into a whole lot of information here. I went into the frequently asked questions under getting started. Simple enough, what is Strike? Strike uses Bitcoin technology to offer instant payments globally at virtually no cost. Use Strike to pay your friends, buy goods and services online, make micropayments, tip content creators, as well as buy and sell Bitcoin. Strike doesn't charge a fee to create or maintain a Strike account. To offer these services, we've partnered with Prime Trust LLC as a state-regulated trust company which holds your funds in custody and enables fund transfers. This I was surprised to read because I thought what we were building here was a decentralized self-custody network. At least that's how the Lightning Network was designed. So I'm a little bit confused as to how Strike actually functions as a technology. Exactly how do they utilize the Lightning Network? Now, I'm about to open a giant can of worms here, and without being able to explain exactly what the Lightning Network is and how it operates, I'm not going to do this very much justice. So I'm going to pick this topic for a different video, but mainly I wanted to outline exactly what was going on here and really what the limitations of this announcement is. The fact of the matter is we're still quite early here. When I first heard this, what I thought they were saying, what Jack Mallers appeared to be indicating was that you could effectively take the technology of the Lightning Network and merge that with the existing network of Twitter. That sounds incredible.
You're talking about a monetary network that can achieve digital bearer instrument cash finality instantly and at relatively no cost anywhere in the world at any time. You combine that with one of the biggest internet networks in Twitter, and all of a sudden you have absolute payment disruption that's been a long time coming, and I'm proud and excited to see it.
Until you actually start understanding how the Lightning Network functions with regards to payment channels. It's an incredible technology, but its network effect cannot simply be co-opted into Twitter. It just doesn't work that way. And the fact that they're clearly stating here that they utilize a third party to custody funds tells me that's not the Lightning Network. So honestly, I don't fully understand this quite yet, but there is certainly more to dig into here, and certainly worth an entire video diving into those aspects. But all the same, it certainly is exciting news. And the section where they get into tipping with Bitcoin over the Lightning Network, utilizing Strike, is all outlined here. And they've also made a point to mention here that Strike is available to people in El Salvador and the US, excluding Hawaii and New York. Under those jurisdictions, they're still not approved, as well as, well, like I mentioned, outside the US here in Canada, not available. People in eligible markets will have to sign up for a Strike account and add their Strike username to receive Bitcoin tips over the Lightning Network. You can use any Bitcoin Lightning wallet to send tips to someone's Strike account. That sentence there actually might explain a little bit of what they might be doing here. Again, without diving in and doing a full deep dive level of research into what exactly is how this is functioning here. But based on that sentence, what I think is happening is when you send a payment from a Lightning wallet, a Bitcoin Lightning wallet, what you're doing is creating a channel between your wallet and Strike's Lightning wallet. And once that payment is sent to Strike, then from that point on, what they're doing is simply transferring it within their own centralized database to the second party that you're trying to reach, without you having to open multiple channels to each and every person you want to transact with or tip. So it's not exactly the way the Lightning Network was intended, but it certainly is a step in building, I guess, what you could call a second layer on top of Lightning, which is a second layer on top of Bitcoin. So this is kind of like a third layer, but it introduces a component of centralization and counterparty risk. But again, assuming that is exactly how this functions, I am going to dive into this a little bit more, and I'll cover it in another video. But getting on to Marathon Digital, we were expecting to see another increase in hash rate over the month of September as more miners had been delivered and deployed at the Hardin facility. In August, they had mined 469.6 new Bitcoin throughout the month of August. Now, I believe they had given sort of a distribution on exactly how Bitcoin production had been growing throughout the year. And as you can see, month over month, we've been increasing. The rate of that increase has slowed in recent months as the miners, the delivery from Bitmains have been delayed, let's face it. Not to mention there's been some shutdowns as they've been getting this network, this mining facility up to capacity. But on my Patreon Discord, some of my members had started to discuss things they've been hearing or things they've been finding that seem to indicate that in September, their Bitcoin production rate had dropped substantially. So I decided to dig into this and find out exactly what was going on here. The great thing about this is that because we're dealing with a decentralized and open ledger, all this information is available to anybody. It's on the blockchain. Anybody can look. You don't actually have to wait for Marathon to publish those results at the end of each month as they've been doing. Voluntarily, I might add, because not all miners do that. So I went to btc.com where we have a nice pool ranking chart here that actually gives a nice pie chart of all the major mining pools on the Bitcoin network. And there you have Marapool at currently indicating a 0.94% of the hash rate, which does seem quite low, which was one first indication to me that something seems a little bit off. Going down actually into the pool, you can get a whole lot more information. Down here you see every single block that has been mined. You can go right back to the beginning of when they actually launched this pool. So all these blocks are here. So what I did is I took all this information and exported it into a spreadsheet. where I could then manipulate the data and generate some charts and try to understand exactly what's going on here. So I took that information, populated this spreadsheet, and added some other information. Here, what I've done in this column is I've taken the cumulative amount of Bitcoin mined after each block. So starting from the beginning, when this pool was first launched back in, I believe it was, going back all the way to the beginning, June 30th of this year was the first block that was mined in this pool. In this, you can see from that original data off btc.com, you've got the base fee reward plus the transaction fee in every single block that was mined. All that information is in here, and then I created a running total all the way through, so then I could plot that information onto a chart to see if I could find anything visually that seemed a little off. This chart here indicates that progression, that accumulation of Bitcoin. And as you can see, there were some periods of downtime where no Bitcoin were mined. Not to mention between changes in the difficulty as well as Marathon's continued growth, it's actually surprisingly turned out quite linear. But this didn't seem to give us quite enough information. And mainly what we were concerned about was the slowdown between August and September. So I isolated that data to get a slightly closer look. And yet again, you can see how there were periods where things tend to flat out. And again, more blocks. This here was in August, where they had already told us there was downtime involved here. But it appears we've had more slowdown periods with more blackout periods as well, here and again here. On top of that, we did hear the announcement that DMG blockchain would be joining the pool with Mara. It was announced that on September 13th, 2021, DMG blockchain will begin pointing 100% of its hash rate towards Marapool. Going back to that chart, interestingly enough, this here would have been the 13th of September, and right after that, another period of downtime for a few days. The next block was mined on the 16th, which appears to have, again, had some trouble getting up and going. So adding DMG to the mining pool appears to have caused some issues. But since then, they've picked up and are beginning generating blocks at an even faster rate. Now, there's still another 7 days left to go in this month, but it's worth noting that by this time, by the 23rd of August, they had mined 324 Bitcoin based on the data directly from this spreadsheet that I've generated, versus by to date in the month of September, they've mined only 222. So that's a substantial decrease. Not to mention the fact that a portion of that was contributed to by DMG blockchain. It's not entirely clear, to be honest, how much hash rate DMG blockchain was bringing to the pool. It did say it's 100% of the hash rate that they have, but I couldn't find any direct information as to how much hash rate DMG currently has. In my Discord, the best information I was able to get was that it's probably somewhere around 400, maybe 500 at most petahash per second. So not a huge amount, but still certainly substantial. 500 might be a little bit on the high side. The only information I was able to find was that they were anticipating an additional, to add 245 additional petahash per second near the end of August. So presumably This was back in July. This announcement was made, so presumably their miners weren't also delayed. They probably were. These may or may not have already been added to their own mining fleet. So that's substantially fewer Bitcoin. That's over 100, but 102 fewer Bitcoin by the same time in the month. And they've added another miner to their pool. So obviously there have been some issues, not just minor delays. So getting back to that, as I've pointed out from these charts, we do seem to have indications of slowdowns, but we can get even more information than this, going back to btc.com, because this is actually a very useful resource. It also measures their hash rate. Right now, there seems to be no visibility on the 3-day chart, but I'm going to go in and get a larger chart here, and let's go back to 3 months. They also allow us to do. Yeah, this is very choppy. Not what I would have expected to see. Now, speaking from personal experience, when setting up a miner, for me, I struggled with that at first and had to go through many startup and shutdown cycles to troubleshoot and find issues and fix them. That may be what Mara had been dealing with through this. It's not entirely clear. But we do have a lot of ups and downs in the hash rate as time has progressed for the entire 3-month period here. If you're thinking that this might be normal, let's go back to the pool ranking here, and let's pull up another miner that is nearly the same size right off the list down here. So let's pick the next one above it. Actually, let's do both. Let's look at the one above it and the one below it. The one above it, again, we got to go into the further one, 3 months. Well, to be honest, that actually surprised me here. This one looks the same as what we have over on Marapool. But we go to this pool and things look a whole lot more consistent. On the 3-month here, yeah. This is what a normally running pool should look like. A fairly consistent hash rate. This indicates 100% uptime. You can have variations in the amount as more hash power gets pointed at that pool, but you shouldn't see basically the hash rate drop down to 0 over and over and over again. Even going into, say, just pick an even smaller one, like, I don't know, grab this one. You can play around this, and you can even pick a slightly smaller one, say this one, and have a look at what that looks like. This is a whole lot more consistent, a little bit more normal. Again, that's the 3-day chart. You can look at the 3-month, and you can see that one's been steadily growing, but consistent uptime. And as I actually think I've seen this one here, also consistent uptime, but not over the last 3 months. This one has had a whole lot of troubles as well, up and down. But over the last few days, it's been a whole lot more consistent. So this is what I'm hoping to see result in Marapool shortly. Gonna have to keep a close eye on this because it's pretty clear that, yes, they've been having some issues. And if they can't keep that pool online, it's certainly going to affect what would be their total revenues. We'll have to see if they address this issue when their performance update comes in early October. But we can see that at least over the last few days here, the hash rate has gone back up to about 3.7, almost 3.8 exahash. Which is about where we would expect it to see now that they have another miner join their pool. It is worth noting that these things can spike. Reported hash rate versus actual hash rate tends to vary. I can even share with you my own personal miner stats. As you can see, the reported hash rate, the current hash rate, and the average hash rate are not the same. The reported is kind of like the theoretical amount. Actual hash rate can sort of vary above and below that. So it's not a perfectly straight line. So if you're interested in playing around with this tool and having a look, there's a whole lot more information on here. You can go and check out their miner stats. Right off the bat, it's a very clear and easy way to track what their production rate is. This indicates the number of blocks, not the number of Bitcoin, but the number of blocks. As you can see, substantially less than we had in August. Again, we still got 7 days left in the month. It could get lucky, and as you can see, well, lucky as much as they can be. You can see that, you know, the distribution's really not that bad as far as when you look at their cumulative amount of Bitcoin, and they do appear to have things back up and running currently. So between now and as they complete the month out, we'll see what happens here. But there's no way they're going to be able to surpass the number of Bitcoin that were mined previously. So if you're watching this video, you get a little bit of a heads up. So I think that pretty much covers it for this one. Not the greatest of news, but I don't make it. I just give it to you. If you found this at all helpful, please leave a like. If you haven't already done so, subscribe to the channel. And if you're still watching, well, that's the greatest help of all. I know this one got into a little bit more of the technical aspects of a lot of this technology, and I really hope to be doing a whole lot more of that in the coming months. So if you're enjoying that, please stick around. Well, that's all for this one. Now let's get back to empire building.